Yeah, you know, the 30-minute artist, what happened for me, I was I'm hanging around the Cowboy Artists of America at the time. And again, I don't do just Western art, but obviously I still do. And I was very much interested, particularly back, I think it was like the early 90s, 1991, something like that. And so I went to Phoenix where the Cowboy Artists of America had their show, and I had a friend of mine who was a gold medal winning sculptor. And he introduced me to an illustrator, which actually a lot of the ranks in the Cowboy Artists back then were filled by former illustrators out of New York and Connecticut and so forth, and they kind of moved west and populated the Western art market at that time. And I met Tom Ryan. What a sweet, wonderful man. And he went ahead, and I just had some dumb Polaroids of my work at the time and showed them to him. And he said, you need to go outdoors and paint. I'm thinking, okay, he said, just do little small paintings and just spend about a half an hour, 30 minutes on them. And 8 by 10, 9 by 12, something like that. And he said, and just see what happens. I thought, ooh, big deal. Okay, well, I can do that. Well, so the book's based on that. It's what that really became a remarkable journey. It's like he tipped the first domino, and all these dominoes tipped over in that succession. And so the book is about that. And there's basically these 30-minute exercises. And these 30-minute exercises, very doable. It's hard. It's hard work, but it really had a gigantic impact on me. Because I was largely studio trained, and your studio environment is very controlled, and it's interesting because the original guy that mentored me, that taught me, he was a commercial artist out of Chicago, and he used to paint under Haddon Sundblom, who did a lot of the Coca-Cola ads and so forth, and just a titan within commercial art. Well, one of his guys came out to San Diego and taught 4 young men. He had an academy running, but he actually mentored 4 young guys, and I was one of them. And he's one of the guys that actually taught me how to paint sunlight and so on and so forth. But anyway, the point is, I've got Tom Ryan telling me, well, you need to go outdoors and paint. And so I came back to San Diego, and I'm in a big hurry to give that a try, And I started telling, his name was Alex. I started telling Alex, and Alex was disgusted. He says, all great art is produced in the studio. And I just listened to him patiently and didn't let him affect me, but finally he went ahead and started helping me with some of the process, and that really, that whole season of these 30-minute exercises and so forth, Alex helped me with some of the equipment and what have you. But that really, when you're outdoors and painting, everything is going wrong. It's just winged insects are flying by, the sun's moving, it's not stable, especially, well, of course, in a sunny day and so forth. And there's all this stuff you have to overcome, that's not in the studio, and it makes you kind of bulletproof. And I was really I was a bit of a sissy, in the studio myself, and when I went outdoors, that makes it toughens you up, I'm downtown in downtown San Diego in the Gaslamp Quarter doing street scenes, painting those. And I've got homeless people coming up just about drooling on my shoulder, and I'm looking, whoa, so I just, okay. And they're nice. It was funny, but here I am, I'm painting, and that's not happening in the studio. And so, all this stuff really kind of rounds your corners out, and makes you really, in many ways, a better, more resilient artist. But there's more to it than that. But there are all these things that kind of come together that really, I would say, on some level, professionalize you. You really become more. It just toughens you up, and it does. You begin to, and this is also in my book, but you can test. It becomes a test bed for colors, for brushes, for compositions, for using a palette knife, on and on it goes. And because if you're doing these little small paintings, and I was doing like 1 at 5 a week. So every work night I would stop before I came home and do a half an hour painting and come home. And so, you know, let's try this color this week. Okay, well, you try that. And a lot of this, again, is overcoming your fear of experimentation and just growing. And what happens, there's this radical explosion in growth because you're starting to experiment. And there was one of the top guys in Western art, I've in a studio, and just a brilliant painter, I think, you know, but very tonal. And I'm talking to him, and he says, you know, Chris, he says, I just added cadmium orange to my palette. And I'm like, ooh, you know, thinking, God, you know, dude, you probably should have, it's not that tough, you know. How about you throw it in there and give it a shot for a week, you know? But, you know, it took him a few years to actually add that to his palette, you know. And so anyway, I got a kick out of that. But it didn't seem to hurt his work too bad even before that, you know, but he was still doing well. But it's really about, again, overcoming our own fears and so forth, and being less afraid to go ahead and to expand our, you know, to try and grow without being subdued by our own fears.